Welcome to the strategic planning couple of slides of chapter 5 for the Principles of Management textbook. So here on the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about strategic planning and what actually happens as the strategic plan is implemented versus what was originally intended for the plan and what the planners conceived on. So those two things are not always the same. There might be things that happens in between that makes the intended strategy not become fully realized. And the realized strategy is pieces of the original strategy plus new things that show up. So when we talk about the intended strategy, this is the strategy as it is conceived by the top management team or the team that actually does the actual strategic planning. Typically, the top management team, there can be a specific strategic management team, strategic planning team. It can be a team that's constituted of a variety of stakeholders. You get the point. But the intended strategy is the strategy that we sit down and think about and write down for our strategic plan. Then we have the deliberate strategy. The deliberate strategy is the plan of action that the company chooses and implements. So we choose something from the intended strategy and we now go ahead and we implement it. So it's a smaller piece of the intended strategy. While that happens, we also have our emergent strategies showing up that we didn't really maybe plan for. And so our emergent strategies are patterns of action that develops over time. So it can be that the managers in the company pick up some of the intended strategy pieces, but not others. And they might engage in actions and focus on projects that are not actually part of the original intended strategy. And so they pick and choose other things. And those would show up here in the they would show up here in the emergent strategic space. So these are the things that we don't conceive of originally, okay? So intended strategy, that's what we conceive of. Deliberate strategy is pieces of the intended strategy. Emergent strategies are things we have not intended, but still that happen. Then we also have something that is called non-realized strategies. And the I'm not going to pick green because that gets too confusing. The non-realized strategies, cyan is fine. The non-realized strategies are things from the intended strategy that just fell by the wayside. So there might have been a strategic initiative or priority that we sat down and thought about that we wanted to implement, and it just never get traction within the organization. It falls to the wayside. And so it ends up being a non-realized strategy. Okay. And then our final realized strategy, of course, then is made up of the deliberate strategy and the emergent strategy. And this is the actual strategy that is now implemented. And there are some, estimates that about 10 to 30% of intended strategies actually become realized at some point. So this slide really just gives us some not additional, but I would say more comprehensive definitions of what we talked about on that slide. So you have the intended strategy, the realized strategy, deliberate strategy, and emergent strategies. So the intended strategy is the strategy as conceived by the top management team. This is strategy as written by the managers, the documents starting off the strategy implementation with the mission, vision, goals, and objectives. The intended strategy is often the result of process of negotiation, bargaining, compromise, involving many individuals and groups within the organization, and of course, sometimes outside of the organization, stakeholders. Realized strategy is the actual strategy that is implemented. So the actual strategy that comes to be when the intended strategy is attempted to be implemented. It's only partly related to which was intended due to implementation, as well as internal and external factors, as we just explained on the prior slide. The deliberate strategy is the plan of action that the company chooses and implements. This is the action plan that follows from the intended strategy that the company chooses and implements in support of its vision, mission, and goals. And the emergent strategy is the pattern of action that develops over time, patterns of action that develop even if the organization doesn't have the vision and mission, right? So we're acting in absence of vision and mission. So we just come up with things, they would be emergent, or despite vision and mission and goals. So we might have those goals that we don't realize, or we pick out the goals that we do realize that were not planned for. So this is, or in addition to what was conceived of in the intended and deliberate strategies, exactly. So emergent strategies may not have been seen earlier or planned for earlier. So finally, for this little quick video here, what is strategic focus? It is important for companies to be focused. The Lululemon article that is posted on your learning management system talks about the fact that the founder of Lululemon, which, you know, is the $130 yoga pant, now it's a much bigger organization that sells, you know, hiking gear, all kinds of different products for the active person. But when the company was originally founded, the man who founded it, he said that he was making a yoga pant for the 32-year-old professional female woman, not the 31-year-old, not the 33-year-old, but a 32-year-old professional woman. Talk about being focused, right? So strategic focus is seen when a company is clear about its mission and vision and has a coherent and well-articulated strategy for achieving them. So strategy essentially comes down to making choices, because we cannot do everything for everyone. We cannot be everything for everyone. So there are the trade-offs, and we have to pick, and many companies fail because they are unable to actually be focused enough for success. That's it. See you for the next one.